All right, this is Chazz Palminteri. Welcome to the Chazz Palminteri Show. It's Monday and it's a new show, 11 o'clock. We have a great guest, but before I do that, I got to remind you, you want to see my show, the one-man show, the original one-man show I've been doing 34 years. We were just out a few weeks ago. We were at Atlantic City at the Oceans Resorts. 4,000 people sold out. You got to come and see the show, folks. I will be at April 23rd at Englewood, New Jersey, the Bergen Pack. Englewood, New Jersey, the 23rd of April. June 4th, Richfield Playhouse in Richfield, Connecticut. June 11th in Huntington, New York, my favorite place, the Paramount Theater. The Paramount Theater. And we'll do one more, June 23rd in Dover, Detroit at the Rollins Theater. ChazzPalminteri.net. Go to my website to see all my dates. Also, you can buy the cards, the merchandise. Now you can't leave. The saddest thing in life is wasted talent. A whole bunch of stuff. They make great gifts. So we have a really, really great comedian. I saw him in person. He tore the house down. I said, I got to get this guy on the show. I talked with him after the show. He said he would love to do it. He's a comedian. He's a podcaster. He's got his own podcast. He's an actor. He's a writer. He writes for other comics. He writes for himself. Mike Cannon, how are you?
I'm great, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no. It's great that you're on the show, but I have to start at the beginning. And I always ask people the same question. Okay, one day you said, I want to be a comic.
Yeah.
Tell me how did this happen?
I think it happened when I was playing basketball in junior college because I wasn't, once you level up and play against like real talent from across the country, you notice your limitations pretty quickly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
I was getting, basically ran up and down the court. I took steroids my sophomore year thinking that would cover the edge. It did not. And then throughout that time, I was funny. I was one of two white kids on the entire team. I had to be.
Were you the class clown, you would say?
Oh, yeah.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a classic ass that requires, unending amounts of attention. So that's more or less what it was. I played hoops in the least efficient way possible, very playgroundy, very like flashy.
But you were a good player.
I could play, yeah.
You could play.
Yeah.
But when you play, like I was a good baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was good.
Yeah.
But like you said, when you play up against real talent, you go, So you knew I'm not going to be a Pro Bowl player.
Yeah, I think I knew.
When did you know?
My second game, we played against Sullivan Community College, which is about like an hour and a half outside of the city. They were incredible athletes, Division I caliber, just did not have the grades to go on. So I was a starting point guard, thought I was tough shit, could play, and I was dribbling, thought I faked out my opponent and continued down the court, and I realized like a second and a half later I did not have the ball. and that guy had already stolen it before I realized it and had laid it in on the on our hoop, and I was like, well, I think that's a career.
I think that. So but you said, gee, I'd like to try this stand-up comedy thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you started at open mic? Is that how it started?
I did, yeah. So I did my first open mic, I think, my senior year of college. I went to Geneseo up near Rochester. So I did my first ever open mic, under the influence of booze, confidence, and a couple friends rooting me on. But at a club called Comics Cafe, which has since been shut down for drug trafficking and tax evasion. Right. So pretty good start.
Right.
And went well enough to where, I caught the bug pretty quick.
So you did pretty good your first time out.
First time I crushed. Second time I bombed, like brutally bombed to the point where.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought I experienced like kind of the whole gamut of emotion from stand-up within 2 times of doing it.
Wow. And that's usually the opposite. You bomb and then you get better.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I was always an actor and a writer, but I wanted to experience stand-up comedy. Because I said, I'd like to try this. So I just did it once. I did it at a place called Good Times in New York.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that place.
I've heard of it. I'm a comedy historian.
Anyway, I did it. A guy named Rico ran it, I remember. And I did it, and I was okay. And I just, you're not going to believe why I stopped doing it. I only did it for a few months. I stopped doing it because I could not deal with hanging out with comedians.
I completely understand.
So fucking depressing.
Yeah.
Mike. I'm a very up guy, you know?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, and as actors, we would talk in the dressing room.
Yes.
Comics will never laugh at your jokes. They'll look at you and go, that's funny.
Right.
They'll say that. They'll go, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But they won't laugh.
No, they're doing the calculus
They're
of
doing
the
the
joke in the
calculus
head.
of
Yeah.
the joke in their
Yeah.
head. But I was like, horrible lives. I'm like, oh my God. And I just wasn't that good at it to really say I want to do this. I always like to hide behind characters and do characters.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
I feel like young actors have a more, it's interesting that you said that because young actors have more of a positive delusion and comedians have a self-righteousness meets suicidal ideation. So it's weird because we think we're the man. We
Right.
think everybody needs to know we're the man.
Right.
But we also, if nobody knows, we're gonna end it pretty quick.
Wow.
Yeah.
And but it's funny how you meet comics that sometimes comics, they're all like, they don't get upset if somebody else is funny. And some of them you can see get upset.
Yeah, yeah. I met your friend Chris DiStefano. Him and I started comedy
Chris
together.
is wonderful. Yeah.
He's the best.
The best.
And the reason why we became such fast friends was that exact thing. Because we found that at the time in 08, 09, the nerd culture that surrounded comedy, huge Marvel dorks, everybody's wearing comic book t-shirts, the whole nine,
Right.
beard, flannel, you name it. Chris and I were the only two ex-athletes that we ran into. So he played hoops, I played
That's
hoops.
right.
We come from a team thing. So
Right.
we were like, hey, man, let's stick together and kind of weather this storm of, our initial ascent, his much steeper than I.
Yeah.
but and together, and that's how we became close.
Now, you opened for Chris. You
Yeah.
used to-
This past weekend, I mean, I initially opened for him because we were young starting out, and then he got Guy Code, and Guy Code was a huge hit on MTV.
Right.
Like, pre-social media, what we know of it as now.
Right.
And it was just a huge explosion. So he got sent from, 5 years in stand-up comedy to all of a sudden he's headlining these really big rooms.
Right.
And so he brought his friend along with him, which was very nice.
That's
and,
so nice.
Yeah, and I opened for him on a few of those gigs. Took some time to become a headliner myself. And
Right.
now that he's in theaters, I'll come with him sporadically.
Yeah,
It's
it's amazing because, he wasn't jealous of you and you weren't jealous of him.
No, not at all.
And you know what? People just don't get it in life. That nobody makes it alone. You need other people.
Totally.
You need other people.
Yeah.
And it's the way people don't realize your networking is so important.
Mm-hmm.
A person said this to me, I forgot his name. He said, your net worth is your network.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that,
Yeah. That's great because I also something that was impressed upon me really early by older comedians was that the most work you'll ever get comes from other comics. So the industry, everything like that is great, managers, agents, whatever, but they come and go. Your allegiance and your connection to your fellow comic are what's going to eventually yield in more opportunities.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like other actors hire other actors go, I don't know, when I'm doing a film, I go, yeah, I got this one guy or this one, she's a great actress, call her.
Mm-hmm.
It's all together.
Well, especially now that we have all these, look at your equipment, your setup. This is unbelievable. But we
Right.
have access to this stuff where we can make our own stuff. So now, especially being close to other comedians and knowing talented people,
Right.
they can fill into your projects if they, if they'll do it.
Wow. So the first night you crushed, second night you bombed.
It sure did.
Wow.
New 5 each night, too. I was one of those idiots that didn't know, I didn't recognize how to cultivate an act or how to build anything. I was just doing new 5 minutes because I thought that's what you do.
Oh, no, you got to keep what you had.
Yeah,
that's what you
I
have
was
to do.
very, very dumb.
Yeah.
I am a classic thick-headed Irish person in the sense that it requires me to fail almost a million times before I break through and figure it out. Yeah.
And the one thing that I remember Chris Rock said to me once, because I asked him once, I said, what is the best advice that you can give a comic? Because people have asked me that question. I said, I'm not a comic, but I want to know what to tell them, Chris. And Chris said to me, the best advice you can have as a comic is do not be afraid of the silence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I never forgot that.
Yeah. And it takes a long time to be comfortable up there with people just kind of blinking at you.
Just not laughing.
Yeah.
He said you have to take a breath and just...
Yeah. It's fun. Like, so I've been doing it for 15 years now, and I've developed a craft, and I continue to, try to improve and get better.
Right.
But as you get more comfortable and you become more of yourself, and you understand what you're doing up there and the different routes that you can take, I really enjoy annoying people now more than I ever have. Where it's like when I first started, any type of resistance or annoyance or anything that I would say that upset people, it almost like took a piece of my soul because I felt so bad.
Now, but if a heckler comes, you can work on him or just leave him alone.
No, I enjoy.
You enjoy.
I enjoy public executions.
Yeah. They don't realize that. They don't realize that you have the mic.
They sure don't. No, especially in Seattle a couple of weeks ago. This one lady just immediately aggressively heckled me, put me down. I was 11 minutes into my hour, killing already, and she was just decided she had enough, went there to start a fight, and I ejected her in a pretty forceful way. It was pretty fun.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you want to say what it was?
I mean, all it was, there's a clip of it on my Instagram, but she just screamed out, what weird non sequitur, aggressively insulting me. I put her down in a joke.
Right.
It worked. Gave her the opportunity to kind of back off.
And she went back off.
She tripled down. So she hit me again and a third time. And at that point, I basically told her to get the fuck out. I rallied the entire crowd to start booing her and kicking her out. And as she was walking down, because she had to walk in front of the stage to exit the venue, and I thought she was going to throw her drink at me.
Right.
And I'm such a psycho that my only recourse for that was, in my head, I was like, okay, if she throws her drink, I'll just beat up her boyfriend.
Right.
So my whole plan was, I didn't think it was even illegal. Like, I was like, well, it was justified assault. But that was my plan, is if she did something, I would have really tuned him up.
You're Irish, so you're a Catholic.
Yeah. Former.
Very former.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Are you very much into religion or?
I used to be. I mean, I'm very much into the stories of religion. I grew up, got communion. I actually got kicked out of CCD because I drew dicks all over the Jesus workbook.
You drew dicks?
Yeah, as a third grade boy.
Wow. Okay. I can see that.
Just drew erections on Jesus and all of his apostles. It was just brutal childhood behavior, and so I never got my confirmation. And kind of went through life as a cynical Irish Catholic, but not in the spiritual sense, like more in the cultural.
Now, is it true Irish? I guess it is true. I don't want to generalize.
No, you can.
We have our bad things too, Italians. But Irish do tend to drink a lot.
For sure. Yeah, I'm 4 years without it.
Oh, you were alcoholic.
I don't know, but yes, probably. but I don't know if I for sure qualified. My wife got pregnant, and when she got pregnant, I decided that I was going to, in solidarity with her, stop drinking.
Was she Irish too?
She's Italian. So I tried to get in with your people. That's
right.
I watched Sopranos, and I was like, I want a piece of that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I married in, and she obviously can't drink during the pregnancy, and I thought because I love drinking, it would be a really nice gesture if I just went the full 9 months with her.
That's great.
She reminded me that we had a trip to New Orleans planned in 2 weeks. So I was like, well, after that trip.
After that
trip.
Right.
So I did the equivalent of like, the story of your parents catching you smoking cigarettes, so they give you a carton and force you to drink the whole or smoke the whole thing.
Right.
I did that in Las Vegas or in New Orleans to myself. So I drank the entire city of New Orleans for 3 days. And then afterwards, I think I got it fully out of my system, and now I'm good forever.
That's fantastic. But you know what?
I still smoke weed, so I'm not sober. I'm not. I'm not pretending.
Well, look, no. And I mean, look, I did many. I don't anymore. I can't do it. Well, I'm a lot older than you, but I did. I mean, don't forget, I'm a '60s baby.
Sure.
I was from so the '60s was like weed and coke and.
Did you take part in like the weed and kind of? Yeah. No kidding. That's so funny. When I look at you, I see the exact opposite. Yeah,
total.
Yeah.
No, I have photos of me with hair down to here.
That's amazing.
I was in a rock band. I was a lead singer.
No kidding.
I traveled all over the country.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh no, I was LSD and.
That's unreal.
No,
so you went from like you did the reverse Carlin. You started with long hair, and then you went into.
I started with long hair.
Yeah.
That's right. In fact, my children don't even know. They just know now. Maybe about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And my son's, he maybe a couple of years ago. He's 26, and my daughter is 21. Both extremely talented, went to great colleges. They just realized about 2 years ago that because I always told them, no, I never got high. No, never.
Yeah.
Never. Finally, it just came. It was just too much.
Yeah.
But I figured they were old enough now if they could handle it.
Sure,
because
sure.
I didn't want to do it when they were young because
Right.
I didn't want to hear, well, you did it.
Yeah.
You did it, Dad. So
That's
I just
fair.
said, fuck it. I'm going to lie.
Yeah.
And I lied up to the very end. You know?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, but now they're cool. Now you know your wife
Mm-hmm.
since you were 10 years old.
Since we were 10 years old, yeah, we grew up together, went to elementary school. She was my neighbor. So I moved to this house in 5th grade. We into Rockland County, New York, and we met on the blacktop of the bus lines heading home for the day. I remember what she was wearing. She was wearing a Charlotte Hornets starter jacket, pullover, very popular at the time. And I immediately was like, I don't know why, I just knew I liked her.
How old were you?
I was 10, and she was 10. And she could hoop. She could play basketball.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was
so
part
you've been
of it.
together ever
On
since-
and off. So we both have HPV. But
What's HPV?
that's human papilloma virus. It's a sexual transmitted disease.
So but then you finally, it was one of those on and off things that finally you got married.
Yeah. So we ended up getting back together for the final time the night the New York Giants beat the Patriots to destroy their perfect season.
Did I love that? Go ahead.
It's like truly, even now with my son being born,
Yeah.
special tapings, you name it,
Yeah.
selling out Gramercy, that is the greatest night of my life.
No question, because I'm a huge Giant fan.
Me too.
And so when people tell me how great the Patriots are, I go, yes, you were,
Yeah.
but you didn't beat us.
No.
Twice.
Eli Manning is unbelievable. He just clicks into
Yeah.
some soulless void
Yeah.
where he doesn't feel pressure
Yeah.
in those last few minutes and
I
just
go,
beats
could
everybody.
have been 19-0. Didn't happen. So I don't want to hear it.
That's right.
You didn't beat us. And I know Eli.
Yeah.
I don't know Tom Brady, but I know. I go, sorry, it didn't happen.
Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
love it. I love it every day.
Me too.
So you finally, with this girl, since you were 10, and you end up getting married.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't.
I mean, you dated other women.
for sure. Yeah. And she dated other men.
So it's not like
I would
guys-
not want to be anybody's only penis.
No.
Because this is also not an only dick. Like, you don't have this, and then you're like, I'm good with all the rest.
Right.
You should still sample around and then kind of circle back.
I believe that. I believe a woman. I got married when I was like almost 40. So
Oh, no kidding.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
I was 31, so we dated for a really long time before we ended up getting married. I'm an
Right.
anti-marriage, don't care for the whole institution kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
especially after my parents got a divorce. But the only person I would marry is
Right.
my wife, so she's the only person I would break my scruples for. And I thought I did mushrooms, and I had a come-to moment where on mushrooms I made the decision to propose to my wife.
on mushrooms.
On mushrooms. And on DMT, I made the decision to have a baby.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So my life is
Holy
driven by
shit.
drugs.
Wow. I mean, I could never make a promise to get married on LSD. I mean, I couldn't make a promise. What am I going to have for lunch on LSD?
Well, she wasn't even there. So I just had this feeling, this overwhelming positive response to and a recognition of who she was to me.
Wow.
What type of support system she's always been, how much she cares for me, how much I care for her, how we already are family, and it's important for her to have this ceremony with her family because they had not broken up like mine, and that I think is why I felt more
Was she
fractured about
come
it.
from a divorced household too?
She does, yeah, but a big Italian family that remains close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did the divorce, I don't want to get too serious, but did the divorce affect you as you growing up?
Oh my God, I was a huge pussy when it came to my parents' divorce because my parents divorced when I was 19 and 20. So
you were old.
I was older, but I was still living at home because I was going to junior college. So I watched their divorce happen.
Yeah.
And it was pretty brutal. And you kind of, when you're older, you can see who your parents really are as individuals, and they're flawed people. When you're younger, you still think of them as superheroes, and they're making it through this thing, and it's tough.
Everybody's flawed, yes.
Of course, but when you're older, both of my parents had very interesting individual responses to their own divorce, and I had my problems with each of them, but
Right.
we've all kind of come back together.
Yeah, as you get older,
Yeah.
some are still friends and some are not.
Oh yeah, and my dad and I have gone through violent history. I punched him in the face when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he hit me first, and I was on steroids, so I punched him back.
Steroids.
Really hard.
Steroids, man. Wow.
Yeah.
I think one of the better stories is when you were filming your comedy special with your dad in the audience.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So my dad didn't meet my son until he was 18 months old, because up until that point we had a continued really bad relationship on and off. He's an ex-actor actually as well. He did some what did he do? Stage stuff mostly.
Yeah.
He did some soap operas and commercial work.
That's what he did for a living when
When I was very little. He was like bartending and that. But there were stretches where that was his sole income.
Got it.
And then we came along and he vocally blamed us for his for his demise in the acting field.
Wow.
So we've had a checkered past. We hadn't talked leading up to this special taping. I did not tell him about it. I don't know how he found out, but we hadn't seen each other or spoken in a couple years, and he just showed up to my taping and shook my hand like right before the thing. Was like, "What's up?" Like almost as a challenge thing to
right before you went on.
Right before I went on.
Talk about fucking you up.
Yeah, and here's the thing, I don't know if it was the beta blocker or my rage just calcifying my focus, but I went up and I was sharp as a razor. I had the show of my life. I had a whole section dedicated to how fat and ugly he was, and I really stepped on the gas hard when we got to that.
Did he like the show?
He did, yeah, he did. I mean, he's one of those guys that like, as long as you're talking about him, it doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative.
Just talk about
it. As long as he's the center of attention, it's great.
Now, how many children do you have?
I have one, just one, yeah.
Boy or girl?
He's a boy. Yeah.
And how old is he? The boy?
3, so he's going to be 4 in July.
Okay, so he doesn't. He knows what his daddy does, but not really.
He does. So it's interesting because he's not a pandemic baby in the sense that we had him during the pandemic, but he developed and grew through the pandemic. So he watched me earn a living doing podcasts and talking to a computer and doing all that, and John coming over and shooting Frank Rigatone and all that stuff. So he would always say comedy podcast, or my dad's doing comedy, and he told his teachers that I'm a comedian, which is its own nightmare. And so he has a semblance of awareness, but I don't think he knows the whole thing yet.
Now, you play poker, right?
I did, yeah, for a living. And now that money means something to me, it's a little bit less. But yeah, when I was in college.
Do you still gamble?
When I play casinos,
I
do.
When you go to casinos, you go play poker?
I'll typically sit at 1-2. Sometimes I'll play 2-5. I've played 5-10 no limit, but that's when I'm feeling insane. That's just way too much money for me to shove around right now. But I like playing higher limit because then you play against people who know how to play, and then they know what you could have, as opposed to newbies who are just throwing chips in because they like the color of the card.
I mean, I'm sure you know Phil Ivey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
are you friends with him?
Yes.
That's unbelievable.
Yes. So,
that is unbelievable.
So he said to me once, we were at the casino. I was working there. I was doing Vegas. I did Vegas for like 7 years, and he said, "Throw the dice for me." And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." So I go. He goes, "Yeah, you were really lucky in Bronx Steel." I go, "Listen, that's a fucking movie." You know what I mean? Yeah. But I am lucky. Yeah. I am lucky.
Yeah.
And I don't gamble. I just never believed in it. Mm-hmm. So I took the dice and I said, "Well, he goes, well, why don't you bet?" I go, "Phil, I don't really." So I think he said, "Here's $1,000. You bet." Yeah. And he bet. I'll never forget it. And he said to me, I said, "Well, you bet my chips." Because I don't know how to play dice.
Sure, yeah.
Like the way they do.
Yeah.
He's really smart, backing up the bed.
One of the smartest people ever.
Smart.
Yeah.
So I threw the dice, bing, I hit a number, bing, I hit a number, bing, I hit a number. I hit about 8 numbers in a row. It was pretty, so he gives, then it was over. And he hands me like about, I think it was about 9,000 that I won. I'm like, the fuck? 9 grand? Just like that. Yeah. He won almost 300,000.
I bet he did.
He won almost 300,000.
I bet he did. Huh? That's unbelievable.
And he's such a great poker player.
Mm-hmm.
Because I talked about him with other people. Other people told me about him. That he would deliberately lose.
Yeah.
Deliberately.
Yeah.
He would blow a pot to set people up.
Do you know the only other person I've heard of doing stuff like that?
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant in high school used to intentionally allow the other team to get back in the game so he could hit a game-winning shot.
Wow.
Like that's how bored he was with
Right.
typical basketball, similar to Phil Ivey, where it's just like he's setting these numbers where he knows if he dumps, he'll get that much more in return because they'll
Yeah.
continue playing for longer. It's just he's like I read those articles about him, Jen Harmon, all these poker players that would pool their money together and they played against this billionaire in high stakes limit poker, and they took this guy for like almost $50 million or something like that collectively playing back to back with this dude.
Yeah.
They're brilliant people.
I seen him do things where I've seen them say you can't play. Where you can't play.
I bet.
Do you imagine that? Not poker.
Blackjack
craps.
and
Blackjack,
crap. Wow.
Craps.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I seen one thing I'll never forget. He threw the dice, and the dice went halfway. It was laying on. It was like halfway, but it wasn't. And then the guy just moved the chip or something. He moved something, and then the dice fell the wrong way against him. And he said, "No, I won't take that." And he said, "Well, it fell." And he said, "No, I want to speak to the." And the guy came over and said, "Let it go, do it."
Right.
Because they knew that he wouldn't play there no more.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know where we got on that. But you're a pretty decent poker player.
I did, yeah. Me and my buddies. So we started during the Moneymaker explosion. Chris Moneymaker won the World Series in 2003, and everybody started having backroom games.
Right.
So my buddies and I were no different. We, most of us treated it kind of like a pregame. Like we'd play a tournament, drink a few beers, and then head out for the night. Me and a couple of my obsessive friends really started loving it. Playing separately, the levels went up, playing for more money. Our game got to be known.
So you're a pretty good player.
I was at the time, yeah. We won a fair amount of money, and I'm not great at math. I'm okay at it. I'm really good at looking at somebody and being able to read strength or weakness or stuff like that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, you're an actor too. Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy acting? And have you done some movies or? TV shows?
I did an indie. And I'm a very novice actor. I had done this indie, but all of it was improvised. I improvised 100% of my dialogue, and we more or less wrote it on set.
That's done a lot.
No, and that actually, I think that's why I was okay in it, is because I was able to be authentic and in the moment.
Fine, yeah.
And if I had something memorized, I may have come off a bit more rote and rehearsed.
Yeah, well, that's memorizing it is a lot harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes you have to if it's a great
Of
script.
course, yeah, and then living the words
Living
as opposed
the words
to
as being in the dialogue, doing it. But you consider yourself a comic.
Yes, I am 100% a stand-up comedian.
And what's funny about comics? There are comics who are good actors, and there are comics who are not good actors.
For sure.
It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Like Robin Williams was a wonderful comic. Was a wonderful comic and a wonderful actor.
Yeah.
I knew Robin very well. I directed him in a movie. Billy Crystal, very good actor and a very great comic. Mm-hmm. Now, it's funny that Jerry Seinfeld, he says, I'm a terrible actor.
Of course, yeah.
Well, he never acted before after that.
Yeah.
But he was smart. He knew his wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. Obviously a great comic, but he's not an actor.
Do you know what he was good in, though? Actually, as an actor, was Louis. When he was on an episode of Louis and he played himself, an amplified jerk version.
I never saw it. Yeah.
It was really good because Louis was up for the Letterman show or something like that, and then they ended up giving it to Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And Seinfeld was playing a dismissive prick, and he was outrageously good, very authentic. I mean, take that as what you will, but he really played the part very convincingly, and he was good in it. Yeah. But he was notably and what he admitted it self-admittedly not great.
Now, do you like writing for other people?
I liked writing for the TV show.
Right.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a really interesting process because podcasting and online content, we're pirates, more or less. Like we can just do whatever we want. There's no thought to copyright.
Right.
We just let it rip. And then when you go to a TV show, it's all lawyers. It's all you got to write jokes that weave through, fair use and all those different things. And it's a challenge, but it's an interesting process that I'm glad I got to experience.
Wow. Now you know what's funny? I like talking to guys like you because we talk about marriage on our shows, and I like to get you're in show business.
Yeah.
Obviously, you comics they travel, right?
Yeah.
You're on the road a lot.
Yeah.
You have to say goodbye to your wife for sometimes a month, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a long time.
I'd say probably like the longest I've left since I've had a kid has been 7 days, and then I'll
that's
come
not
back
bad.
for a few days and then head out for a few more. It's more back and forth.
And
than anything.
she's okay with it, your wife?
She's great. My wife is unbelievable. Yeah, she's so cool.
Hey, she knows you're out there making money.
I think it helps that she's known me since I was 10 years old, and she more or less saw this as my life path before I did. Like, you know, that's what happens when you find somebody special, right? Is they believe in you before you believe in yourself.
Wow.
And it feels, I have guilt because you know, I'm doing well and things are on the up for sure. But there's always that self fear, at least for me, where I'm like, there's a lot of women that believe in men, and those men don't do shit, and those women are idiots because of it. And it's like, my wife might be an idiot for believing in me. And
Well,
that's a difficult thing to kind
yes,
of come to terms with.
But you're there for her and the kid.
For sure,
baby,
for
you
sure.
know.
I just meant in terms of career and
I
financial
mean, do you
security.
believe that? And again, not to put you on the spot, but we always talk about this. You know, you think of I think Catherine Arducci said it to me. You know, there's whales, there's swans, and I think penguins are the only monogamous people in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a rough one.
I know.
Getting old, but you're young.
I feel built for it in a weird way though, because I definitely have been single. I've enjoyed myself being single. I don't think I'm the best version of myself when I'm single. I think
Right.
I think a lot of my bad tendencies come out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just how I it just not even treat people in an
No,
aggressive
no,
way, but just
just-
dismissive and not even
Instead of
considering them.
dismissive, not your goals are different.
Yes.
I always say that when I hit it and started becoming famous, if I didn't get married, I'd be living in Paris with 2 hookers and an 8-ball. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'd be doing.
100%.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean,
Yeah. I would have a caved-in left nostril right now if if I wasn't married.
I mean, I don't know what the hell I'd be doing. I mean, I got to, you have a wife, then you have children. If you're any kind of a man, it focuses you. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I got to get my shit together here.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Now, the people who can't do that, they end up getting divorced.
Yeah. No, I'm grateful for it because I think it elevated me to being the version of me I should be.
Yes.
You know, I don't think I was always a good husband and a good boyfriend to my wife, but having a son especially has brought me to another level.
What's his name?
Crew. He's named after an 80s BMX movie named Rad.
Hold it. CREW?
CRU.
His name is Crew.
Yeah, sure is.
I don't think I've ever met anybody with that name, right?
That's awesome.
Crew.
Yeah, so it's a movie called Rad, starring Bill Allen and Lori Loughlin, pre-Full House, was on that show. Bart Connor, fresh off of a Olympic gold in gymnastics. And a couple other people as well. It's my favorite movie ever.
Now, how did you talk your wife into saying okay for that name?
Well, that's what's funny is I assumed her being from a giant Italian family, his name would have to be Cologino Spaghetti or something. Like
Yeah, exactly.
I had no
Right.
idea. So I threw out Crew as a joke, like as a pure like, what do you think? And her younger cousins immediately ran with it. Baby Crew, we love Crew, baby Crew. So this is while my wife is pregnant. And she kind of was like, oh, this got a nice ring to it. And I showed her the movie. She had refused to watch it up until that point.
Wow.
And then she watched the movie and was like, I get why you love this as a 4-year-old. I understand why it's made a impact on you your entire life.
Right.
And I love that you're this enthusiastic about it. And my family likes it as well. So it's good.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I won.
I got to tell you. So his name is Crew Cannon.
Yeah, Crew Joseph. So he's got some Italian.
Crew Joseph Cannon.
Yeah, so Crew Joe.
I mean, if he's not a football, that's a football player.
Right?
Left tackle, Crew Cannon.
That's
I mean,
right.
come
yeah.
on.
I know. And he runs through life head first. He is a pure bruiser. It's with shocking agility. He'll be running towards the edge of a counter, and it looks like he's about to die. And at the last second, will juke and continue on down the hallway.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Crew. I love it. I really do. I love that
thank
name.
you.
Crew. Yeah, my real name is Calogero. Who the hell wants to be born that name?
Right. I love that name.
Well, it's a great
do.
name. It's a nice name, but nobody could call you. They called me C when I was younger, and then obviously Chazz, you changed it to Chazz. But Crew, I mean, no, no. So if somebody, where are you going to be? Where are you going to be working soon?
I'm doing a 420 crowd work show on edibles. So I'll be taking marijuana edibles and then doing a completely unscripted show. I did it last year at a New York Comedy Club in Gramercy. It's called Mike Cannon's Huge Mistake. It's actually available on YouTube.
Somebody can go to YouTube and get it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
YouTube.com/Mike Cannon Comedy. That was last year's. This year, I'm actually elevating a bit more. So I'm doing 2 shows in one night, doing 200 milligrams. So I'm eating a lot of THC. Going to Stamford, Connecticut, New York Comedy Club, where we saw
I love
each
that
other.
place.
Beautiful new
Beautiful
club.
place.
And then back for a late show at New York Comedy Club, Gramercy, the OG spot. And we're gonna see if I fall asleep. We're gonna see. I might bring out a crossbow. Who knows?
So somebody's going to be filming this while you're doing it for your podcast.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be documented. We're gonna put it out on YouTube, and just see. What
and you
think.
did a few specials too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
John has shot both of my specials. Actually, the most recent one was called White Privilege Homeless. We shot that at the Triad Theater on the Upper West Side, and then before that, 3 months after my son was born, we shot Life Begins at the Comedy Cellar.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So and you have obviously your Instagram.
My Instagram at I am Mike Cannon for every single social media. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff.
Wow.
And then the podcast is Here's the Scenario with me, Mike Feeney, and Brendan Sagalow.
Edibles.
Yeah.
Edible. Chris is big into edibles.
Oh yeah. Well, we took some edibles and recorded 2 episodes of both Chrissy Chaos and Hey Babe. And I think it's the hardest I've ever laughed in my entire life. I had no voice after.
I mean, Chris and that guy, they're funny.
Yeah,
they
so
are
good.
Hysterically funny.
So good.
Yeah, and so are you, man. You're a great guy.
Thank you. I
and
appreciate
I think
it.
you're really funny. And we got to have you back.
This is an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
God bless.
You too.
Hey, so that's the Chazz Palminteri Show. And come back next week. Don't forget, every Monday at 11 o'clock, go to chazzpalminteri.net and you can see where I'm doing the one-man show. God bless you.